Hi, my name is Jeremy Milarsky, and I'm with the No Kid Hungry Missouri Project. In this video, we're going to talk about best practices for organizations that are running after-school meal programs. But first, a little bit about us. No Kid Hungry Missouri is a cooperative effort between the University of Missouri's Center for Health Policy and the Missouri and Family Community Trust, or FACT. The mission of the Center for Health Policy is to promote well-being and access to equitable healthcare for all Missourians, particularly those in greatest need. The mission of FACT is to promote and support effective public-private partnerships and community involvement to develop innovative solutions for improving the lives of Missouri's children and families. FACT's board of directors is composed of leaders from the private sector and directors of Missouri state executive agencies whose mission is to serve our state's families and children, FACT guides the work of 20 well-respected local community partnership agencies throughout the state. So to begin, child hunger is a not well-known problem in our state. It's widespread and there's not a lot of awareness about it. In fact, most people are surprised to know that about half of our kids are eligible for free and reduced school meals. And that's almost 500,000 children as of October 2018. It is not an urban versus rural problem. There are hungry children in cities, there are hungry children in rural areas. It does not discriminate. And you can kind of see that from this map. Our project has 3 topics of focus when it comes to child nutrition: school breakfast, and so we support financially through mini grants all of these programs. And in our breakfast program, we support innovative approaches to school breakfast, things like grab and go breakfast, or maybe second chance breakfast, where there's breakfast served between first and second period. That works well in high schools. And maybe breakfast in the classroom when it's a good fit. We also support summer meals. So nonprofits and schools can serve meals during the summer. It's really a high need period. A lot of kids, they are getting their nutrition during the school year, and for the most vulnerable ones, there's not a lot of options during the summer. We do technical support and small grants for organizations that are looking to serve meals during the summer. And then we focus on after-school meals, which is something that is not really well known in Missouri, but there are programs that allow you to serve reimbursable meals after school if you're a nonprofit or a school in a certain location. And that's what we're going to talk about for the rest of this presentation. After-school meals, there are 2 child nutrition approaches to after-school meals. One is under the National School Lunch Program, which many people are familiar with if they work in schools. That it hails from the World War II era. You are allowed to serve an after-school snack under NSLP, but it is only a snack. It's a 2-component meal, and it's for schools only. It can only be during school days, and you are reimbursed based off of income eligibility. So there's paid meals, free meals, and reduced price meals. Under CACFP, or the Child and Adult Care Food Program, you can serve both meals, 5-component meals and snacks. It is available to nonprofits and schools and used liberally throughout the state. We have about 45 school sponsors for CACFP last school year, and about 128 or so nonprofit ones. You can feed any child that is 18 or younger. And it works on an area eligibility system, not an individual eligibility system. So CACFP can be run in areas that are considered high need under USDA rules, and we can get into that in a second. And the fact that the site is there in that area establishes the eligibility. Children are not asked to take home forms for their parents to fill out with income on it, like in an income eligibility system. And I want to pause on this because this can potentially address some of the stigma we see in the business of feeding kids. And I mean business in the sense of work, not revenue or profit. When we're undertaking the activity of feeding kids, stigma is a problem. Not every kid is going to raise their hand and tell you that they're hungry. And children do not like to be differentiated from their friends. They don't want to be labeled. And we have seen in this campaign just examples, people telling us that there are children who will be reluctant and may not even participate in individual eligibility programs like free and reduced school breakfast because they're afraid of being labeled. And in some after-school programs, which are, again, established by area eligibility, that's not as much of a factor because the school advertises it simply as free meals are available after school. They don't use terms like low income or vulnerable population or anything like that. And so there's, again, less of a stigma. CACFP after school suppers, the 5-component meals, also have a far higher reimbursement rate than snacks. And that is going to become, we're going to touch on that a little later as well. So what is required when you're establishing a place to serve after-school meals? Well, again, you have to be a school or a nonprofit, or the sponsoring organization has to be a school and a nonprofit. All the normal health and safety standards regarding serving food and particularly for child nutrition are in play here. The area is considered eligible if it is in the area of attendance of a school that has half or more of the students eligible for free and reduced price meal. And that's any level of school, elementary, junior high, middle, high. If any level of school, if that school is 50% or higher, their area of attendance is considered area eligible under CACFP. You have to provide some kind of enrichment or educational activity. This is meant to provide, a robust experience for children. In normal circumstances, you do have to do that. And the activity, we can touch on this later, but the activity cannot be exclusive based on the child's ability. And also the meals are consumed on site and served on site. The benefits of doing this are, number one, addressing child hunger in a very real way. Again, because it's area eligibility, less of a stigma, it's more of a universal approach. Every kid eats free. When you do that, you have a better chance of reaching those kids that don't raise their hand and tell you that they're hungry. And again, we have seen examples where that really does transform a community. It brings everybody together. In schools, a lot of the nutrition professionals, they only see the kids during a certain time of day at lunchtime. And when there's an after-school meals program, some of them have told us that they like getting to interact with the students in a more meaningful way during those afternoon hours. And you get to be part of the community more. And the aforementioned higher reimbursement rates. There is a reimbursement rate that's set for certain meals. For a 5-component meal under CACFP at the time of this recording, it's around $3.64. And there are some economics at work. Usually when we're talking about child nutrition, economics is a secondary concern, for rightly so. We're mostly concerned about feeding kids and improving our community that way. But the economics are worth thinking about because we want these programs to be sustainable. We want them to last. And we want them to be feasible for the organizations that are doing them, so they do the most good. And in the higher reimbursement rate, the relatively higher reimbursement rate for CACFP has allowed some organizations in our state to make this a revenue neutral or even a revenue positive venture. Because once eventually you serve enough meals, the cost curve kind of flattens, but the revenue continues to increase. And again, that has worked. In Missouri, total, almost $4 million in revenue was collected under CACFP by all the organizations, and 2.6 million meals and snacks were served. So our first example that I want to talk about is Marys County R2, the central part of the state. It's a rural district. They really take efficiency to heart. They're one of the most efficient child nutrition programs I've seen. It is cold meal. It's packaged and put into crates. Everybody gets involved in this effort. At least that's how I saw it when I was observing them. The students are involved with the cleanup. They appoint 2 students. In one class I saw, they appointed 2 students to take out the garbage. They liked being able to get up and go into the hallway to get a kind of a hall pass for a bit. This photo, excuse me, wasn't quick with my annotation controls here. This photo is this is the guidance counselor for Marys County R2. And she and many of the teachers, custodians, students are involved in this. It's very positive. Everybody likes getting their afternoon meal. This district is able to take advantage of a state policy that allows schools that have a different schedule, a 4-day week schedule, to serve before the final class bell. And they don't, so that for that reason, they don't have some of the transportation challenges that we see in traditional school districts, which can be overcome. The students are there on site, they're served the after school meals, and the bottom line is they have almost universal, what we call universal participation. Almost 100% of the free and reduced student population, well, the equivalent of such is fed on an average day in Marys County R2. And for that reason, for this district, we are told this is revenue positive. This is not, they're not losing money on after school meals in Marys County R2. The model they use for the actual food we call Super Snack. It is a packaged meal. It's used by many nonprofits and schools in our state. It has all 5 components, and it has all the nutritional content. This meal, the unit cost hovers around $2. For some places in the state, it's a little higher. Some places it's a little lower. But when you consider the reimbursement rate, $3.64 and $3.64.75, that's almost twice the cost. And so if you're getting almost $2 in revenue for every meal, that makes it can make it an economically sustainable process. But this is one approach. This is not, I should have said this earlier, but there is not a one-size-all-fits approach for this work. This works for many districts. It is a way to keep costs down. It is not the only way. There's plenty of districts that do things like hot meals or a mix of hot meals and cold meals for their service model. It's about what is right for your community, and only you in the community and the community can figure that out. A second district I want to discuss is Waynesville R6. They are in Pulaski County, and they're a very large district. They're new to CACFP. They just started in the fiscal, the 2019-2020 school year. All the schools participate. They were encountering some challenges in the beginning, which is normal. One of their bigger challenges was waste. So it's a new program. People aren't used to it, and they found that there was a lot of waste. What they discovered shortly after, though, is that there is a USDA policy that allows you to use a model called offer versus serve. So we talked a second ago about how a CACFP full 5-component meal has 5 components. They are meat or meat alternate, a liquid milk, a fruit, a vegetable, and a grain. Offer versus serve allows those components to be presented separately, and the students can choose 3. They have to include fruit and vegetable, but they can choose 3 of those 5 components. This was a little bit of a game changer in terms of the waste problem in Waynesville R6 because for one reason, the athletes they understandably did not want to drink milk right before practice. I like milk, and it wasn't that they didn't like milk. It's just right before an athletic activity is kind of a heavy beverage. You'd rather have a bottle of water. I happen to be a runner, and I would not want to drink milk right before a run. Doesn't mean I don't drink milk or like milk. So the athletes, because of that issue, the athletes had an easier time. They could just have 4 components in a water instead of the milk, and that's a reimbursable meal under offer versus serve. And they were able to, again, they learned about this policy. They communicated with the state agency. In this case, the state agency is the Department of Health and Senior Services, the Bureau of Community Food and Nutrition Assistance. They are very accessible, and they were to Waynesville, and they found out that this was an option for them. So offer versus serve ended up reducing waste for Waynesville. They are one of the most prolific districts for CACFP on the Eastern Missouri, what I call my side of the state, the Eastern Missouri side of the state for this project. And it is a boon to that community. They have exceeded expectations. So a good way to start when you're thinking about incorporating after-school meals in a school in particular is what activities are already there. you have lots of clubs on campus. In most cases, are they eating? And if so, where is that food coming from? Who's paying for it? One personal story, my daughter is in middle school. And this past year, the 2019-2020 school year, her middle school started serving CACFP snacks after school. Before that, because my daughter's involved, before that, at her clubs, either the snacks were being brought in by a teacher, in some cases by a parent, in some cases by the kids. And now they are federally reimbursed. And it's not to say that one way is better than the other, but these are options worth exploring. And I'm sure your school districts are thinking about economic sustainability at this time. This is just something to explore. Transportation, schedule, custodial services, all these things should be considered. I kind of have a philosophy of no bad surprises. It's best to get the representatives from these different groups at the table when you're planning an after-school meal program, particularly in a school. But the same logic applies to nonprofit organizations as well. For traditional school districts, the bus dismissal time can be a factor. Schools that have the buses pick up maybe a little bit after that final bell may have a easier window to serve after-school meals. But again, something to kind of just consider. That's not going to be a good fit for every district. I do realize that. Our final example is Bakersfield R4 on the western side of the state. They started with after-school activities. They have a culture in that district, I am told, that's not my side of the state. Well, the West Missouri program manager told me this, that after-school activities were already big. Almost every student was and is participating in after-school activities in Bakersfield R4. And because of that, it was a natural fit to start serving CACFP meals once they learned that they were qualified to do so. They also utilized advertising fairly heavily, and they have almost universal participation. They are they have really embraced this program. So let's talk a little bit about advertising. You want to get if you're doing this, the advertising will greatly increase your chances of success and may even be essential. A lot of schools and nonprofits have involved the children in the advertising. I'm a parent, you know that by now, and my kids know what is cool more than I do. And in terms of composing the language for radio announcements, obviously this is a collaborative process. Things like social media posts, children and teenagers can be very helpful. And why not involve the yearbook club or the journalism club, or have a poster contest letting the other kids know that there's after-school meals available, or free meals after school available on campus. It can really improve things. So that's the long and short of the best practices that we've seen in the after-school space. One thing I didn't mention is we are talking about CACFP at risk after school. So there's a couple of different program divisions under CACFP. We're talking about at-risk after school that is available to schools and nonprofits in a lot of different areas in the state. If you are running one of those programs and you have overcome a challenge, or you have some advice to give to your fellow child nutritionists, we want to hear from you. We are about supporting organizations that are feeding more kids through technical assistance and grants, and that technical assistance is informed by you. So please do, if you have any best practices, consider sharing them with us. If you have any questions about the after school meals program or No Kid Hungry, my contact information is on the slide. I am Jeremy Milarsky. I'm the program manager for Eastern Missouri. Laura Hembrecht is our Western Missouri program manager. And our contact information will also be in the video description. Thank you for watching, and please consider liking and subscribing.